this is often something that one sees in training videos of therapists, is they're leaning in, which is the extreme form of the subtle forms of just feeling the effort, just sitting, feeling the effort of being totally focused on the other. Yes, for looking for what is, what's required here, what do I need to do? So it's all this alertness.
Right.
And the nervous system, your nervous system is all geared up for action, right? Sympathetic nervous system. Along with allowing the receiving of the inspiration and the upside and what is the strength here, is because that's a meditation almost. You have to stay with yourself to that degree.
Right. You have to be noticing your own experience to notice if you're draining energy or receiving energy or, reacting that's taking effort, or resting into the space and letting it unfold. And without that self-awareness, our habits click in.
And that I can feel that even as you're saying it, and I am noticing my own reactions to your saying. It also feels like a little bit of a getting in sync, because I'm asking you to tune into yourself. I'm, we're mirroring each other. If I'm tuning into myself.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. And I think that's also the effect that the more calm I am, and the more patient I feel, and spacious I feel, and confident I feel, that resonates and literally changes the vibrational field. The brain picks it up. And again, there's studies that show that, how I'm feeling in my nervous system. I mean, everyone probably can relate to how, a nervous mother holding a baby isn't going to calm it down, but give it to the grandmother that's done it 5 times and for 5 decades, and the baby just calms down. And it's not because of the experience, it's because of the confidence and the calmness and the capacity to stay in a state that the baby can feel and responds to. And that happens throughout our whole life, is that we're picking up each other's nervous system and resonating to it. It's called limbic resonance. There's a part of the brain which is the old part of the brain that's connected with our emotions, that has the capacity to feel the emotional state of another person and literally and feel it. So it's not that we know it cognitively, we can train ourselves to do that too, but we can literally feel what's going on inside another person. Our limbic brain is designed to do that.
One step up from our alligator brain.
Yes.
Right? There's something about the grandmother that you were saying. I wanted to. The grandmother, or the whoever the person is that's comfortable with the baby, knows. That's what you're saying. Knows that this will be okay. Knows this is temporary. And this is part of the process. And is okay with offering this comforting space and tuning in. I mean, if it gets frightening, then probably would move around with the baby and jiggle the baby, which they've actually there's some thought about it being that an evolutionary development. Babies calm down to movement, because if you're on the run from a predator, you don't want your baby crying. So that the baby that's calmed by the movement is more likely to outrun the whatever it is.
Okay, that makes sense.
The predator.
Well, and that probably stays with us throughout our life. I mean, my interest and focus on body and movement, and this workshop that I just did in Saint-Sauveur was about movement and embodied mindfulness. So you're commenting on that makes me feel the connection, feel confident about the connection with even adults learning how to use movement to calm the nervous system. That's a whole other, that's another talk about that. Yeah.
And to put on that agenda to do another talk about that
Okay.
is some actual like that. It's stayed with me, and I've used it, and it's so useful. Going from kind of the individual work to maybe this is more people in relationship. I don't know how to frame it, but the one where you take turns moving each other's arm. Supporting it, so ultimately you don't know who's moving the arm and who's not.
Right.
That's body resonance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a kind of a metaphor, it's a kind of a concrete version of what we do in psychotherapy, ideally, is get into that kind of sync and attunement. So it's not clear who's leading, who's following. The intention of the Hakomi therapist is to follow, not necessarily always follow the client, but follow the unfolding process. And at first it's following the client and not giving the impression that the client's, that the therapist is leading, directing the session, but rather give the clear impression that this is a collaborative journey and we're here to support, but not direct. And even when we do direct attention to something, we do it with the curiosity of where does that take us next? Not where do I want it to go, but where does that lead us? What result from whatever intervention I did with an experimental attitude takes us on in a particular direction to the next step.
Right, which is also leaving open to the next step of curiosity about what is the next step. So that it's always this it's not that the therapist is leading, but more identifying places where, now I wonder where this is leading. Let's see where this is leading, and setting up the experiment.
Right, and the first job, I mean, that's supporting the arm little exercise is a great one for reminding us that we can be present in a supportive way, which is what we're doing as therapists. And the first job is to, I always think that holding the arm, if I'm supporting your arm, the very first thing is to recognize the preciousness of it, and so it's, again, it's that sense of this is sacred and what an honor that you've given me the opportunity to support you in this way. And then there's almost it's almost like holding a baby. It's that precious, it's that really being in the state of mind, for me, of I'm being sensitive, I'm being supportive, I'm being present, I'm not distracted because there's so little to do or bored with it or anything. Listening to what happens, feeling what happens, enjoying it. It's enjoyable for you, probably. And it's so, and it's a really great demonstration of how little it takes, because as you know, you've done this before. If this even only lasts a minute, and setting your precious arm down more or less symmetrical to the other, you're going to feel a huge difference. It was so little, it didn't take very long. What was the gem about it was my state of mind, in terms of appreciating, not trying to make anything happen, being willing to be present in a supportive way, and follow any indications of where the arm wanted to go, And for you is what would you say was precious about it?
I'm staying with this because I want to convey how that little tiny 20 seconds gets me so into my body, both because that did feel good, and the skin on skin connection, which kind of wakes one up, then into my left arm, and which makes me very aware of my right arm, and how different they are. So it makes me, I just thought of this now, your contrast, comparison.
Consciousness loves
contrast. That's
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So I'm already all around here, which I find, I know this would go places, and it's so simple.
It's so simple.
It's so simple, and it could take. I know that 20 minutes I could discover something that was really very useful to me. It's hard to believe.
Well, it's amazing. It's really amazing, and I think we can do this also in a kind of a verbal, more of a verb, without me touching you, for example, but with me assisting you to be aware of your body, and to be aware of change and contrast and what feels different when, and what the discovery is, if I put it in a really general way, is the difference between being able to relax some of the unnecessary habits that create tension, create stress, limit range of motion in a bodily way. It's the difference between feeling tight and feeling relaxed. In a person's life, with this kind of discovery of how I'm organizing experience in ways that either limit me or even cause more stress or suffering, unnecessary suffering, and feel the contrast, feel the possibility of life being more effortless, and enjoyable, more, we think more nourishing. What's the missing experience of nourishment that's not missing because it's not available, it's missing because of how we're habitually organizing experience.
Yeah.
It's just as possible for me to relax this arm if I'm aware of the habits, if I'm aware of the tightness. I remember walking down the street one time and it started to rain, and I caught a glimpse of myself in the shop window, and my shoulders were all hunched up, as if I'm going to be any drier in the rain with my shoulders hunched up, but without having had that awareness, I would have just gone the whole way home with my shoulders hunched up and probably sat down to dinner with the same, and we carry residual tension that's left over because we're not aware of it, so we don't relax it. A cat just walked through. I mean, and cats are given to us to show us the difference between being activated 1 second and completely relaxed the next. And so we've got residual activation going on. The other thing we have is activation that we think is necessary because of the way we make meaning of the world. The world is not a safe place is a belief that gets generalized and causes it makes sense, if that's the reality we're living in, to stay ready, and so we'll never completely relax. And so whether it's our beliefs, our generalized beliefs about life or about ourselves, or whether it's just leftover habits and efforts that we've forgotten that we're even doing, it could be way easier